Thank you for joining us for today's quick webinar about spring football. It's spring in Texas. Most places that means track and tennis and golf and academics and music and along the way some baseball and softball. But we're here in the great state of Texas. It means football is coming back. We're excited. It's only 5 months away till we get to August 1st and the beginning of the drills in the fall, but let's talk a little bit about what goes on during the spring. So we're going to start with some calendar considerations. Steve Ahulin, our athletic director, talk to us just a little bit about the calendar considerations and how they affect spring football in TAPS.
I think first thing that's important to remember is that spring football is considered an off-season activity. Make sure that your in-season students, those that are playing baseball, softball, or involved in track and field, make sure though they don't feel pressure to participate if their season is still going on. Keep in mind a period of acclimation. These kiddos haven't been hitting for several months. A good idea would be to have 3 days without pads, without contact drills before you actually put the pads on and get after it. You have a maximum of 14 days of practice, and those days need to be completed over a 21-day period, and that 21-day period counts Sundays as well. As far as the weekends are concerned, you can practice on Saturday. However, overall TAPS rules, Sundays are not allowed to be used for any of those spring practices. The length of your practices during the individual practices, the time allowed, that is to be determined by the individual school athletic department. But we would encourage you to keep in mind the players' safety and their conditioning.
You know, thinking too, Steve, here we're talking about the calendar. That's 3 weeks. So I know there's been questions that have come to us in the past. You may have actually had them when you were out there in the field as well. You know, can I just do 2 days over a 7-week period? And the answer is no. You get 3 weeks to conclude your activities. Again, the time allowance during the day is just like in the fall. It's unbounded, so it's what each school decides to do. So if you want to go out there and have that 2-hour practice or that 3-hour practice, you could do that. The other thing that I'm just asking your opinion on this one is, you know, we still probably during weights want to do weights. We want to get some of that going in weights. And how do you see that fitting into the time allowance during the spring football period?
I think once again, if you have a weight program, and I know we had a very strong commitment to our weight program when I coached, but when our kids were in season, we backed off on the weights. We still did a maintenance program. And I think if you're doing spring football, think in terms of having an in-season lift there where you're lifting lighter weights. You're not really killing those kids because now you're really doubling those activities, and the demands on these kids' body are considerable.
So I think when we're looking at it and we're talking about spring football, we're talking about the time to get the ball out, to get out there and work, whether you're in pads or out. It's the extended time period that's allowed after school, or I guess you could go early in the morning if you wanted to do that. So thinking about that, the calendar's coming up. It's up to you to set it, and away we'll go. Let's talk a little bit about coach participation. Steve, what does a coach need to be doing if they're out there on the field working with your athletes during spring football? Well, I'm going to tell you on my side, they got to be entered in rank 1. So it might be a new coach to your system. It might be a volunteer coach to your system, but they need to be in rank 1 just as if they were coaching practice in the fall. They need to go ahead and do the acknowledgement of rules, because if they're out there coaching your kids, mom and dad, the kids, everybody's going to see them as a coach. And they also need to have the first aid. You know, we've seen a lot of emphasis recently on cardiac, but we need basic first aid, that sudden cardiac arrest, know where your AEDs are. Concussion management, it can happen in the spring just like it happens in the fall. I don't know that we'll see as much from the body temperature illness. That's not really the one, but the performance enhancing drugs. And remember, some of that can include caffeine drinks and other things. So again, make sure your coaches are in rank 1, make sure they're certified before they go out there to the spring practice. Steve, talk to us about what a student has to do to be eligible.
Sure. First of all, most importantly, they need to be currently enrolled underclassmen. Think in terms of being in season. They should be entered into rank 1. Now, a lot of times you'll have a new kiddo come out who may not have played the previous fall but wants to give football a try. So make sure you double check. Make sure they're in rank 1. They need to have a current physical on file with the school. And a lot of times this kind of slips through the cracks because the kid didn't play in the fall and you just kind of assume that they're registered, they're ready to go. Just double check those things. Double check rank 1, double check, make sure they have a current physical. Obviously, you should not be using any of your graduating seniors in spring football practice. You're preparing for the following season. They are not eligible to participate in spring football. Also, any student that's not enrolled, not attending your school, should not be participating in spring football. You may have somebody that you know is going to come to your school the following year, but this is not the time to get them involved in practices. They must be enrolled, must be presently attending. Their seats need to be in a chair during those classes to be able to participate. The big question that comes up is with 8th grade students, and the rules here apply whether that student attends that member school or you might have one that's matriculating from a feeder or a different school. These 8th grade students can have some limited participation in spring football. They may wear shorts and t-shirts. They may not wear pads, okay? And they can participate in only non-contact drills. When you start doing contact drills or any kind of live play periods, make sure those 8th grade students are not on the field. I know it's real easy to go, hey, we need a free safety out there. He's not going to hit anybody, but I need to have him there for my quarterback to read. You never know when one of those wide receivers is going to run a post and run right over that 8th grade kid, and now you've got some problems.
So again, when we're thinking about that question has come up for years about a transferring student that you know was coming in next whatever. Can they sit in the bleachers and watch? Yeah, they could. Could they be out there in t-shirt and shorts and walking around with the coaching staff and listening to what the coach is saying? Yes. Do they need to be throwing the football, catching the football, running the football, being involved in the on-field participation? No, they do not. The other part of that is strictly from a liability concern. If this student is still attending another school, you really need to think about from a risk management standpoint, you're putting them at risk by being out there and whether they're going to be a part of that or not. The 8th grade situation as well. You could actually pad your 8th graders up if it was only going to be 8th graders participating in a padded session in one end zone while everybody else was somewhere else. But 8th graders can only compete against 8th graders once the pads go on. So keep that idea in mind. It's important that we get the right kids out. We all know everybody wants to get a jump start and get a head start and get going. But again, it's 5 months till we get there. We just need to make sure we're all on the same page. What can you do from a competition side? You can conduct drills with protective equipment. So TAPS has that approved and non-approved equipment that we use during the fall two-a-days and what you can do during summer. Basically, once you go into spring football for those 14 days of practice over the 21 days, just remember, you can use whatever equipment you have and do the drills you want to do. Can you practice with another school? That came up several years ago with some of our smaller squads or our squads where half the team was out playing baseball, so you didn't have all your linemen or you didn't have all your skill positions. So you can meet up with another school, do drill work, and have some competition. That kind of thing, I think, is a really good opportunity for you to meet up size on size or skill on skill if you have two schools that want to do that. Holding an inter-squad scrimmage or game, if y'all are out there and you want to do a period, I think that's fine too while you're working with another school, because you would do that if you had all of your kids. But what you may not do is hold an inter-school scrimmage or game at the end, meaning at the end of spring, you can't go have challenge team A, cannot go challenge team B and have an actual game. You can have an end of season, end of spring game with students from your own school, just can't have other students involved or incoming students. Steve, as we always go through, health and safety is just such a big, important part of what we're doing right now. Again, your acclimation period, if you've got kids that are in track or that have been running or that have been playing baseball, doing whatever, I think the acclimation to the outdoors may not be as hard as it is sometimes. But again, make sure your kids are ready to wear the pads again. It's been a long time for some of them. Even in 7-on-7, you're really, even if you're wearing the soft shell helmet, it's not the same as having a real helmet. Sometimes they think it is, and then 7-on-7 use their head like they've got a real helmet, but it's really not. So talk to us a little bit about health and safety. And again, I think one of the things that keeps coming up is the tackling courses and what we need. So talk to us a little bit on that aspect of it.
Sure. Here at TAPS, we're going to continue to emphasize and support the health and safety of all of our student athletes. And we want to keep this in mind throughout the entire year. The NFHS is a great resource, and they've produced just an outstanding instructional video covering safe tackling techniques. I think this would be a great time to have your staff look at it and just really research all your safe practices and how to teach these tackling techniques effectively. It's free. It may be accessed at nfhslearn.com/courses/football tackling.
I know this is the third or fourth generation of the tackling, Steve, and we started off with some guidance. And whether you've done Atlas or whether you've done the other tackling courses that are out there, the hawk tackling or whatever, I don't think it ever hurts to get your mind back in the game before you walk out there. So make sure your coaches are ready, make sure you're prepared, make sure you're documenting what goes on. This is that time of year when 7-on-7 starts popping its head up, and 6-on-6 for our 6-man schools. So we're excited to see some of that coming. Hopefully the good weather out there allows you to participate for quite a while. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It is spring in Texas after all. During the school year, coaches may coach 7-on-7 or 6-on-6 after school on weekends and in tournaments or leagues only during the spring football period. So if you're doing an April tournament, and you're sending your kids over there on Tuesday and Thursday night to start doing 7-on-7 drills, make sure that's within your 21 days that you're doing spring football. Obviously, during the summer, coaches may coach 7-on-7 or 6-on-6 in tournaments or leagues, and the practice time leading up to that would be included in the 15 contact hours, but the actual games wouldn't. And finally, we just want to invite everybody. We've had a real good turnout over the years. It'll be our second year for 6-on-6, and we're going on 10 years for 7-on-7. It'll be June the 23rd and 24th back at the Heart of Texas soccer fields. Got a little warm last year, but we had some great competition. And I'll tell you, as the director of TAPS, it does my heart good to see the kids get out there, to see the coaches get out there. There's some camaraderie, there's some competition, but I think fellowship in the end wins out. Steve, we did change balls this year. We went away from the Wilson. What balls do we have out there to offer for this year?
Yeah, just a quick reminder for the official football of TAPS. We are going to continue our partnership with Big Game USA for the 2023 football season. There's a QR code there that you can click on there and order your balls during the summer. I always wanted to get a kind of a head start on some of my ordering, and this way you can make sure that you have those balls ready to go for the fall.
Remember, Big Game is not going to be available through BSN or one of your other providers. You're going to have to go straight to the factory. We think that's a benefit. But again, if you've got new quarterbacks coming up, or if you've had ones that haven't used that ball, this is a great time to get those balls early. And I will tell you, avoid the fall rush. I know that this year, in 2022, when we were getting ready for the season, we did have a big run on the balls. It took a little while, but you know what? If you're ordering March, April, May, I can't imagine they can't get the ball with your logo and your colors or whatever else you want on there. Will, do me a favor real quick. Let's jump over to the TAPS website for those of you that are new or those of you that forgot. It's www.taps.biz. It does work considerably better on your computer than it does on your phone. We apologize for that, but if you find your laptop or find your tower, sit down. www.taps.biz. Click on athletics, and then it's going to jump you over there on the left-hand side. It's got football and 6-man football. We'll be posting new information there. That's also where you can access the summer rules. And then 7-on-7 and 6-on-6 are over there on the right-hand side as well. So both of those are there for you to go through. Both of those are going to be updated as we go forward. Again, it's spring in Texas. We had a little shower here at the office this morning, turned a little cooler than the 87 degrees it was when we unloaded the trailer from winter soccer, but we're ready to get after it here, and we know you are too. If you have questions about spring football, if you have questions about what you can and can't do, or when you can and when you can't do it, or even what you can and can't wear while you're doing it, please give us a call. Again, we're here to help. We want to be a resource for you as you go forward. So it's www.taps.biz, info, I-N-F-O, at taps.biz. And finally, the phone number, 254-947-9268. Spring football is upon us. Football will be here before you know it. Thank you again for joining us for this webinar, and I hope you have a most successful spring, summer, and fall.